If you're a Magic player looking for a good deal, but also looking for ways to expand on your deck's performance and maybe even speculate a bit in the Magic the Gathering market, then maybe this is just the video you've been looking for, because you know what? I like buying old cards, I like talking about Magic the Gathering, and in today's video we have a bit to cover on both of these subjects. Some of the greatest deals in Magic the Gathering that I have ever witnessed have been done by a single person who saw something before everybody else, managed to get in early, capitalize on it by investing a big chunk of money, and then they come out looking like champions when other people start to notice it and they sell those cards back into the market. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thanks again for hanging out with me on my channel today. And of course, a reminder, guys, before we start the serious topic today, that if you enjoy the Moxman, if you like the content you saw here today, hit that subscribe button. Turn on your notification bells. I come at you every single day of the week, and I get closer and closer with coffee breath because I like to talk about Magic cards. I like to talk with you guys, and we got to talk about some great deals that are happening right now for those people who are looking for them, because not everyone is. Now, we're not going to be talking about Power 9. This isn't about Moxen. This isn't going to be about Time Twisters, but there's a lot of cards in the mid-range that are becoming more playable in formats like Commander. Because of new cards that Wizards of the Coast introduces, it makes these cards more powerful, more playable, easier to utilize in creative ways, and some of these cards are already powerful. They actually get even better. Now let me show you the first card I want to talk about, because this is interesting. Here is the Island of Whack Whack, okay? Great name. I love saying this name. Whack Whack. Sounds like Aflac. This is from Arabian Nights. You can see here, I started it back at 2013. I've gone ahead to 2024. Now, forget the spikes of $4,000, guys. Forget all that. This card has been somewhere around the range of, I want to say, like $600-700 is what I saw it really selling for consistently during the highs. But that's not where we're at right now. This card is nowhere near that level. A near mint condition is $274.94. The market says $402, but I can find this thing for way less than that. Just look on TCG Player and you'll find all kinds of moderately played, heavily played. You'll find amazing deals for this card currently. And remember, Arabian Nights only had 5 million cards printed. There was only 20,000 in the world of this card made. Compared to anything nowadays, it's insane to think how rare this card is. Now, what does it do? It's a land. And it says tap, right? And when you tap it, target flying creature's power is reduced to 0. Okay, so now we know. Island of Whack Whack is a land. Doesn't tap for mana, but you can tap it to turn a target flying creature's power to 0. Great. Makes that creature be nothing. Amazing. Now, it doesn't look that highly utilized, does it? You don't see it in a lot of decks. You don't see it in a lot of constructed formats. We don't see it in the average Commander deck, even though it's a land. But yeah, it doesn't tap for mana, and it turns a creature's power to 0 if they have flyers, and that's pretty darn good. It's not a bad land, even by today's standard, because you can turn a 50-50 creature coming at you into a 0-50. That's kind of nice. But what if it can tap for land? This is what a lot of people tend to forget when they're looking at reserve list cards, is the mana-based cards on the reserve list. Everything from dual lands to the lowliest, weakest reserve list lands, like Soldevi Excavations. It's not the weakest. I love that card. You guys know it's true. If you're new to the channel, I love Soldevi Excavations. It's one of my favorite cards. When we look at the island, though, and you think about the cards they've given us, Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth, Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. This land cycle, I think, is going to play a very big part in an upper echelon of Magic that will be played years from now, but it takes time to get there. And the fact that if you had those lands in play, the Island of Whack Whack can now tap for mana, because it can be a swamp or as well be a forest. Not to mention any other colors they produce later on by giving us blue, white, or red. But that land can now fit into those decks because itself is colorless. It has no drawback to tapping it. You don't have to pay 3 mana and tap it to make a creature's power go to 0. You don't have to do anything. You just have to put it in play and tap it. That is a disgustingly powerful card onto its own right. It's already there. Now you're telling me with different cards that come into play, this thing can now be tapped for mana? I can actually use it for general casting if I don't need to tap it for something that's coming at me that's flying? This is where players tend to forget how great cards can be, how utilized they could become when built around or built into a newer deck with cards that are up and coming. And it's not just that card. Let me share the next one here. Here is the Elephant Graveyard. Again, Arabian Nights. This one says tap to add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool or regenerate an elephant or mammoth. And of course, it's been errated and stuff that also can regenerate Loxodons, okay? Now this thing is $288.07 is the average. The market is $288 as well, which is very even. And it's $145 in euro, okay? But more than this. And this thing, again, forget the 1500. This thing's been averaging up to around 500 at its height, and it hasn't been back since. But we know they keep giving us more Loxodons. They give us more elephants. We have a whole bunch of cards that fit into this genre. So this card taps for mana and can regenerate elephants, mammoths, Loxodons, shapeshifters. Just regenerates them because it's all creature types at the same time. Changelings, it can regenerate them. And it can tap for mana. Now, we add that again to something along the lines of Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, or you add it in with any of the new ones that come up like Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth. These cards should not be slept on. They should not be forgotten. And yes, it's a heavy investment. That's not a cheap card. That's dual land level, okay? That is a lower end, heavily played dual land, but those are near mint prices. If you go shopping for the Island of Whack Whack, if you go shopping right now for the Mammoth Land, Elephant Graveyard, sorry, I had a mind fart for a second. If you go there look for those, you're going to find them a lot less expensive than you realize. Especially if you're looking in the moderate to heavily played market, which of course means the resale potential of those cards is a lot higher. Not everyone wants a near mint. They want real, they want playable. They want to be able to put it in a sleeve, call it real, not a proxy, and use it. But at the same time, you get the investment out of it because you get the playability factor, enjoying it, having a great time in a multitude of decks. But then you also can resell it later for some liquidity, which we obviously want to be able to do when you're spending that level of money. This is an interesting time to see cards where they're at, potential upswing with new powerful cards coming to bear from power creep we've been seeing across the board, which only stands to make these cards even more powerful. And it's not just these. Take a look at our next card. This is from Legends, and this is Eureka. E equals MC square. Amazing card. This thing's been as high as, yeah, you see it there, 10,000? No way. I'd say around 1,500 was the height that I saw this card selling for regularly. When you look at the card, you see the market price is $498. The average is $428. I've seen near mints for 500 Canadian, which means you can find moderate to heavily played in the high 200s to low 300s. Well, you're probably asking, what does Eureka do? That text is pretty small, Mox, man. Eureka is too green, too generic. And you and opponents will go back and forth every turn, putting permanents into play. As many as you want, but you can stop at any time. Pretty awesome, right? Pretty amazing. But there's more to it than that. You can make these cards so they can't be countered. We can stop them with those new cards like the ones that, with Discover 5 and stuff. Your spells can't be countered anymore. They had the little Shusher, the Vexing Shusher. Next spell can't be countered. There's lots of ways to make sure those spells go off. And if you've engineered your deck with giant bombs inside to just berate them and take extra turns and do crazy stuff, that's a game-ending card. And if you've built it the right way, it won't matter what your opponent has. The game just ends for 4 mana. 4 mana and you just end the game. Now, there are faster ways of doing it. There are other combinations. But a card like this hasn't been this cheap in a very long time. And who knows what future cards could connect with it. Not only that, I want you to picture things like River Song, Soldevi Digger. That goes to your graveyard. It didn't get exiled. It goes to your graveyard. Wheel of Fortune goes to your graveyard. You could put these things back into your library. Wheel for 7 new cards, one of them being being Eureka, and you could recast it again. And you could do this every turn. It's not impossible. It's not even unlikely. Just want somebody has to notice it and want to be able to build it and do it. And again, it's not a cheap card. Not every card is going to be cheap to get it. But is the playability worth it? Is the upswing enough? Is the excitement of trying something like this worth it? And for some players, it absolutely is. And could this card recover to new, higher heights? Absolutely. We already know how high it's been before. We know the low value that people place on some of these cards when they fall out of favor. doesn't make it any less playable. Doesn't make it any less exciting. It just means somebody right now is not using it. Commander groups aren't using it that often. Some eternal format like Legacy, Vintage, Old School, you're just not seeing it played. But when it gets played, some of these cards are epic. If you look at a card like Peacekeeper, this card's $10 now. It used to be like 75 bucks. Peacekeeper is just a simple thing that says you pay a couple of mana, nobody can attack. Okay? It's like a version of Moat. Very nice, but it's 10 bucks. It used to be 75. When you build that into a deck that doesn't want to attack, you're going to hit them with spells, artifacts, enchantments, something else. You need as many walls and lines of defense to stop opponents' creatures from hitting you. You need your Maze of Ith. You need all these things to stay alive. That card's 10 bucks now for Peacekeeper. And you don't know what other creations will come along to bolster those abilities of not being able to attack. We don't see them very often anymore because Wizards likes the game to be fast, which means players are less and less prepared to face off against some of those options available in older school formats with cards that are exceedingly cheap. All I'm trying to make you guys recognize today is there are so many possibilities out there, mainly in the mana base of Magic the Gathering from the reserve list. You look at old mana base cards, some of these things are disgusting. They're so powerful already, and they get better with age when Wizards gives us new ways of combining these cards and interacting in unique, fun ways. So keep this in mind. Keep your minds open to it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Add something to the conversation. Tell me what I'm missing. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm right and agree with me. Either way, remember to shop smart, shop S-Mart. Stay in your budget. But some of these deals are just too good to pass up when you start looking at moderate to heavily played, where speculators could be hiding, and where the speculative market, as well as the actual playability of these cards, is going to end up in the future. You don't want to be lost behind wishing you could do it. You want to be one of the people who got in at a reasonable price that you could afford and say, yeah, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad it's done. Now I own the card forever. Thanks a lot for hanging out, guys. Thanks for being here on the channel and talking with me today and joining that conversation. Of course, I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow for another video. Have an awesome day, and don't forget, bring a friend to Magic. A shout out and thank you to the fantastic patrons, guys. We got amazing people supporting this channel every day. I want to thank you guys. I know I do this every day, but it's never enough because these guys make it happen. They allow for daily uploaded content. I want to thank you every day and being part of the team. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. You made it to the end. Now, guys, shop smart, shop S-Mart, always. You can put that in the comment section because it's been one of those days. Let me tell you, it has definitely been one of those days. I'm wearing thin today. It was a long, long day. Way past my normal time, but that's okay because you guys are worth it. Remember that. Okay. Seriously. Elephant Graveyard for 180 bucks on TCG Player, an amazing, phenomenal deal. You look at Isle of Whack Whack for around the same price, what are we talking about? If we add in any of these land cycles or possibilities to tap and untap lands and do crazy things, are you telling me you don't think these lands are worth it? At these price points, I don't know why they haven't had buyouts yet or sell-offs and buyouts all at the same time up and down markets. I don't care. Let it sleep. Let it be quiet. If you need one of these cards, I recommend getting one. If you're going to play with them, get it. It's a great price. From where they have been, I consider this a value deal. And that's something to be said for everybody looking for a good deal. They're not the cheapest cards, don't get me wrong. I understand. If you're making this far of the video and you don't have the bankroll to do a card like that, I understand that entirely, and maybe you just can't afford it. But to me, it's a good deal at the price it's at. I may even try to pick up some for the channel for the giveaways. It might be good for the Patreon box. I'll have to see. I gotta wait for my taxes to roll out and hope some of these cards still exist as a good deal at the end because I would love to be able to pick some of these up because I think they'll just work amazing in future years for some of the stuff we'll be able to do with our decks. That's all I'm saying. Thanks a lot for hanging out, guys. Thanks for being here at the end. And not to mention, I picked up a Retribution and Mind Over Matter. Those are going in the Patreon box as well. I picked up a few things for the box already just to keep filling it up, but I just don't tell you guys very often. So, hey, I'm telling you something. You saw something. You saw that. I'll see you guys later.